John Bryce. John, how are you today?
Great, Keith. Good to talk to you, buddy.
Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Not exactly under the circumstances we expected this Monday.
No, not at all. Just I think really an extremely bizarre time in all of our lives. Something completely unprecedented.
And looking at how the SEC handled it, am I the only one a little surprised that it took the SEC as long as it did to make a decision?
I don't know. I think that everybody was monitoring a constantly evolving situation, which we've continued to see evolve more and more, right up literally to this minute. So I don't know that the SEC took too long or not long enough or anything like that. When you look around, the fact that I think the Big East stopped the game at halftime of its tournament on Thursday. So there was a lot of just bizarre, unprecedented things unfolding around the country, far more important than the sports world, but then it was trickling down to the sports world and making a bunch of unprecedented decisions. I'll be real honest with you. Once these places made the decision to limit spectators and to keep people out, then I think they should have let players and coaches vote and be tested. And if everybody was all clear, I think they should have allowed some to still compete, if only to maintain some sense of normalcy.
Was the unprecedented nature of the situation, does that make almost any action that the league takes, people are going to second guess you because it is unprecedented, so there's no real timeline or, okay, this is how we did it the last time this happened, so you're going to be questioned either way, aren't you?
Oh, 100%, Keith. And look, the closest things any of us have had would be the aftermath of 9/11, and then from an SEC basically only standpoint would be the way that they handled the tornado basketball tournament around 2008 or so. So there just wasn't a lot of anything to go on to formulate any kind of baseline and say, okay, here's where we're starting. Let's make our decisions from this point based off of X, Y, and Z. There's just nothing to point to in that regard. There's still nothing to point to. We're continually seeing now restaurants go to go only, or all restaurants having to close operations or not allow interior dining and things like that. So it continues to be just a bizarre and rapidly evolving situation.
Is that one of the things that has been lost a little bit in this situation, John, is the economic impact on cities that were going to be hosting NCAA tournament games or conference tournament games, and essentially the flow back out of the local economies?
Yeah, I think that we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. We'll probably hear some studies revealing how much X millions of dollars of economic impact was lost in, say, Cleveland, Ohio, which was slated to host some NCAA tournament games, or just the state of Ohio, which would have been preparing to host play-in games, I guess, tonight and tomorrow, or tomorrow night and Wednesday night. So, yeah, I think we'll hear a lot of that stuff. I don't think we're hearing it now, frankly, because we don't have a handle on things as they are now, and we're continuing to see things change. But there's no doubt, and a place like Tampa can recover from the lost economic impact, because people, whenever this passes, are still going to flock to Florida and flock to the beaches and things of that nature. So it's a blow to the economy. But again, I would wager that a place like Cleveland or the state of Ohio in general loses far more off of this and has longer reaching damage because of it.
Yeah, I don't think many people go to Dayton for vacation.
Maybe Bob Kessling, but not too many people. You're right.
I would not think that's it. How did you think Greg Sankey publicly handled it, as far as certainly being thrust in his first real major situation as conference commissioner?
You know, I mean, again, with no baseline, I thought it was handled basically as well as it could be. Again, I would have liked to have seen a little more forethought, I think, nationwide in how things were handled. Although it was very interesting that not necessarily Greg Sankey, but Arkansas's A.D. Yurkich talked about the fact that they didn't like the way they found out, that they found out the NCAA was canceling all spring sports championships the way we all did on Twitter or online, and that they didn't agree with that. So again, I think there should have been somehow a way for calmer and more rational heads to prevail and to, again, hold some sort of conference call to get all the major players on this call and make some well-reasoned, thought-out decisions. I thought that once the NBA canceled, I thought we saw a lot of knee-jerk trickle down to the collegiate game, and you see a guy like Alaric Soler for the Tennessee Vols baseball team wanting his season back, and obviously Vol baseball was off to just a fabulous start. But again, I think you could have maybe found a way, not necessarily this past weekend, but you could have found a way to salvage some of these spring sports with some parameters set in place.
Were you a bit surprised that Sankey was so forceful and almost demanding an explanation as to why the College World Series and the spring sports were canceled so quickly?
I'm glad for that. I like that. I think more of that was needed, and I think that ties into what I was just talking about, that they could have probably handled this better and a little bit more with a little bit more forethought, and that it would have been perceived much more appropriately. Again, I know it's unprecedented for everybody. You're making decisions as they fly at you. The NCAA probably has a little bit of a scar tissue, for lack of a better term, with all the lawsuits flying around and with the way that they're trying to handle investigations into the sport of basketball and things of that nature. But I just firmly believe that things could have been handled better and much, much better for the student athletes involved had they gotten folks together, whether it was just the conference commissioners or whether you were able to get all your conference commissioners and school presidents and then some other select leaders on phones for conference calls, video calls, what have you. I think there should have been more dialogue, and I think that's what Greg Sankey was mad about. I think that's what a lot of people are upset about. I mean, the collegiate golf championships, which obviously are played outdoors, and I don't think there's a ton of just shoulder-to-shoulder contact from fans or competitors, are not until the third and fourth week of May and the first week of June. The College World Series, as we know, stretches into June. The College Softball World Series, the same thing. So I think people were having a really tough time digesting events being canceled, quite literally about 100 days out.
How much hubris does it take to be Bill Self and while you're under a major investigation say, well, if you play the tournament next week, we're not coming?
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of grandstanding and just a little bit over the top, melodramatic, whatever you have. I bet that Bill Self's players, probably 9 of the 12 or 13 that aren't going to have much of an NBA potential, would have, again, voted to play. I think that's what it boils back down to. You saw Jordan Bowden tweeting about it, players all over the country tweeting about it. They really wanted another chance to play. Think about how much the women's game, in my opinion, needed the potential of a Ryan Howard versus Sabrina Ionescu matchup at some point in this tournament. And based on some bracket projections, that was like a possible Sweet 16 matchup would have been Oregon versus Kentucky. And on the women's game, that would have pitted your 2 biggest stars in the game, in my opinion, and something that the women's game continues to need as it continues to grow. But those 2 ladies are fabulous players that I think can pull in the casual fan, not just hoop heads like ourselves, Keith. So, again, I think there was a lot of rush to judgment on this, rush to action. They wanted to rush to action, even if it was rash behavior, then be labeled for their inaction. And I think that, again, there's still a way to strike a happy medium.
How much chaos does this throw the recruiting calendar into?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, we're seeing it already now. It's fairly surprising. Ohio State, over the last 72 hours, has gotten a couple of big-time football commitments, even though these are guys that obviously were not on campus this weekend and don't know when they can be on campus again. But you're talking about the spring evaluation period. You're talking about how coaches have turned their spring camps, but especially their spring games and some of the scrimmage settings into premier recruiting events that really set the table for what they hope to accomplish in the summer months when they're having guys back onto campus for their elite camps and things of that nature, whether it's Friday Night Lights somewhere or Tennessee's former Big Orange Carpet Day or whatever. Spring sets the table for those. So I am intrigued. I think that coaches deep down will probably tell you the impact to their programs is greater from the recruiting standpoint than it is from on the field with spring football and all this stuff stuck in suspended animation. I think that coaches deep down, they may not want to admit that the X's and O's of spring aren't quite as valuable as the recruiting calendar and the recruiting time. But I think that the recruiting is the more important element of the two for these programs as they look towards not just the 2020 season but beyond.
Is it, and also, doesn't this create chaos as far as creating a roster for the next season? And the graduate transfer window is going to be awfully narrow whenever things get back to whatever sense of normalcy we can.
It is. I think there's a lot of factors that are going to make this throw chaos into next year. I think just strictly from a financial standpoint, I'm going to be curious as to see how some of these things are funded with the way that student athletes are being told that they will get an additional year of competition, and nobody will lose their calendars because of that. All these spring sports players will get that extra year. That's some significant money. I haven't yet seen the dollar figures, but you're talking about incurring a full additional year of scholarships that you're obviously not going to take away from people right now as they continue their classes pretty much universally online right now. So, again, the strict financials of it is something that I find fascinating.
And from a basketball standpoint, what are your thoughts on granting seniors another additional year of eligibility basketball-wise?
I would have to disagree with that, Keith, because at most seniors maybe missed out on 6 games, and that's if they were going to be able to run the table in the NCAA tournament. So by and large, every senior, by the time we got to Thursday, had played somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 32, 34 games, something along those lines. I just don't think you can grant an additional year of eligibility for all those seniors across the sport for that few of games, that small a percentage of games. And again, I don't think you can give somebody an entire additional year of eligibility when they might truly have only had one game left to play, be it a conference tournament or an NIT game or a play-in game or whatever. I think that would be taking it a bit too far, in my opinion.
How much preparation do you think football staffs are taking now? Possibility and trying to figure out exactly maybe this bleeds over actually into, if it bleeds over into the start of summer practice.
Yeah, I think that you're seeing a lot of that. I think that coaches are still adapting. I talked to a member of an SEC staff that's a rival to Tennessee late last night, and he was talking to me about how they're not supposed to do anything for 2 weeks. They're not allowed on campus. They were to get all of their stuff out. They can't be back for a minimum of 2 weeks. And what's the impact going to be? And that's what nobody knows, is what the impact is going to be farther down range. Now, I think that with college football, again, those June and July months are important from the conditioning standpoint and starting to build the identity of your team. Still think the second one that usually starts somewhere around July 5th, July 7th, I think that's really the one that coaches circle as being the onset of the most important time. But take, for instance, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is supposed to open its 2020 season in Dublin, Ireland against Navy on like August 26th. I believe that trip is completely a bit up in the air right now, but also then Notre Dame is supposed to start its actual camp sometime in late July because of the NCAA allowing you to start camp 28 or 30 days before your first game. And so then you start trickling into some different logistical issues and some different variables that really mess with you from a college football standpoint when you start thinking about the people that were going to be beginning camp earlier and beginning with their eyes on an earlier start to the season. So, again, it's just so much unanswered out there, so much unknown out there. But, again, I don't feel for college football players missing spring ball or the inability to recruit, for coaches to recruit, as much as I miss the recruits who now can't get to these campuses that they really need to get to as many times as possible before they make a decision that's going to impact them for the next 4+ years and beyond for the most part. And then I really feel for the the spring sports kids who may not get those championships.
How much economic pressure is there to make sure that football does start on time?
Oh, tremendous! I mean, you're talking about billions of dollars, Keith. It's the great machine. I mean, it's college football is what fuels truly like 90 to 95% of the sport nationwide, if not an even greater percentage. There's no SEC, ACC network, Big Ten network without all the football inventory. That's just cold hard facts. And these networks can't keep paying that money out for no programming. So I think there's tremendous pressure on all of the above. I think we're seeing the NFL trying its best to forge ahead, business as usual, while also acknowledging the adjustments to pro days and to combine workouts and things of that nature that were going to be being held at all these different schools and campuses. And there's now finally word starting to trickle out. I don't think the NFL has formally said it, but the draft's not going to get to be in Vegas live at the end of April, as the NFL, even as late as Friday, was trying to hold on to. All signs point to that being completely redone. So, football is king in sports, in the sports culture of this country, and whether it's NFL or college, tons of livelihoods depend on it, and that has a tremendous trickle-down effect to bars, restaurants, non-revenue sports, you name it.
Could the leagues be a little more transparent in their timelines?
They need to be. I think they need to be. But again, I think it goes back to the way that things have been handled from that standpoint over the past 72 to 96 hours. I think that there's not enough vision into the future and trying to study the potential ramifications, and it's causing everybody from you and me to whomever to have these conversations and wonder aloud what the calendar is going to be and how things are going to unfold. And yes, a lot of it is unknown, and they can't answer some of those questions because of that. But this country will have this under control, I believe, sooner rather than later, and there needs to be some forethought with the way that decisions are made.
John, as always, a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Find me on Twitter at John D. Bryce1. I've been trying to do as much possible sharing of information on there as I can, be it on TSSAA championships and spring sports, or just as it has pertained to the world of collegiate athletics and beyond. So that's the best spot to find me these days right now.
All right, John. Have a great week, my friend. Stay safe.
See you, buddy.
All right. That is John Bryce, and we are back after this.
In July 2012, radio station WLAF was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until August 1st, 2020. Our license will expire August 1st, 2020. We filed an application for license renewal with the FCC on February 3rd, 2020. A copy of this application is available for inspection during our regular business hours. It contains information concerning the station's performance over the last 8 years. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts relating to our renewal application and to whether the station has operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by July 1st, 2020. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available at the WLAF offices located at 210 North 5th Street in La Follette, or may be obtained from the FCC, Washington, D.C. 20554, or online at www.fcc.gov.
We all know 1 + 1 = 2. But what if 1 + 1 = 25% off? With Allstate, you can save up to 25% when you bundle your home and auto insurance. And when you include the local expertise and trusted advice of an Allstate agent, that's some math we can all get excited about. Are you in good hands?
This is Lansden Hill with Hill Insurance.
This is Lori Johnson at E. Hill & Son.
This is Jim Ferris with E. Hill & Son in La Follette.
Hi, this is Paige at E. Hill Insurance.
This is Tabitha Burris with E. Hill & Son Insurance.
This is Mike Keith, E. Hill & Son, serving Campbell County since 1925. Locally owned and operated. Check with E. Hill & Son at 562-2112. Go Cougars!
Hi, this is Percy Schull with Walk-In Bathtubs and Home Improvement. We're here at the church, the Faithway Assembly of God Church. We're so happy and proud to be able to do the new home improvements on the church. We have done all of the new vinyl replacement windows for the church. We've done all of the new trim and overhang for the church. We've done all the new vinyl siding for the church. We've done all the new gutters and downspouts with Robbins Guttering. We've done all the new painting on the church with Woody's Painting, Greg Woodson. So we've decided if you need any home improvements done to your house or a new walk-in tub for the handicapped and elderly, if you need new windows, new siding, new trim, new overhang, new gutters, new downspout, new roofing, new deck, any home improvement, we will make a donation on your behalf and your family to the Faithway Assembly of God. Let's help rebuild the church at Faithway Assembly of God. This is Percy Schultz with Walk-In Bathtub and Home Improvements. Give me a call at 865-274-9047 or come by Woodson's Mall and take a look at all we've got. And no, by the way, come by and look at the church and all the new things that's going on here. God bless, thanks, and have a great day.
Hey, this is Brandon Johnson with Eagle Tire Pros.
And you've just recently merged with B&M Tires.
Yeah, that's correct, Jim. Really excited to bring on several members of the staff from B&M here to help us at Eagle Tire to grow.
Of course, many services you offer here. What's probably the top of the list that you do here at Eagle Tire Pros?
Every day is a different mix, Jim. We do everything from tires and wheels to lift kits, suspension work, brake, pretty much you name it, and we've got a technician here ready to do it.
Do you call ahead, set an appointment, or walk in? How does that work?
We do take walk-ins, but appointments are always helpful. We've got everything to be able to get you right in at your appointment time. We do offer courtesy loaner vehicles. We provide complimentary rides back to your place of work or your home. So just give us a call, set something up, and we'll find something to make it convenient for you. Easiest way to find us is right across the street from Advanced Auto Parts, the big red building, and we've always got something interesting on our billboard outside. Our phone number here at Eagle Tire Pros is 423-566-8473.
Now back to La Follette's very own Keith Hatfield and Holding Court over WLAF.
And welcome back to Holding Court. Special Monday edition, what we had anticipated to be an NCAA tournament preview show, but not to be. But at least some folks were able to get their tournament played and garner championships, and among them, Catholic coach Mike Hutchins. Coach, how are you today?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic. Certainly fortunate. The Fighting Irish fortunate enough to go ahead and get their tournament played and bring home a trophy.
We were really happy that it worked out that way. I feel bad for some of our area coaches. I know Coach Green and Coach Eldridge. I talked with Coach Eldridge, and they felt like they had good draws and were really excited. I feel for all the kids and the coaches that didn't get to go.
Talk a little bit about the TSSAA's decision there, and are they kind of boxed into a situation that they really don't? There's really no good answer to this problem.
Well, I mean, they've got to go for safety first for the kids and the people that are involved. You really don't have a choice when it comes to something like this, and all the sports teams around the venue that the TSSAA was going to have the state tournament have closed down. So there's really you've got to go with safety first. I feel like.
Looking at your team's run through the tournament, what was the key to getting through what was a tough draw?
Well, we shot the ball particularly well, and at the end of the year, Keith, we were really playing well. We won our last 10, I think, in a row. In the semifinals and finals, we were 16 for 29 from the three-point line. That was really big. I feel like Christian Brothers and Wildcats both made a concerted effort to jam the inside, and it opened it up for a guard to shoot the ball. And the three-point shooting was really big.
Looking. You bring back a fair number of those guys.
We got everybody back except the king. Of course, that'll be a big loss. That's 17 points and 13 rebounds and 3 blocks a game. It's so athletic. We'll miss him, but we will have a lot of firepower back. There's no doubt about that.
How excited is the Catholic community in that you've got not just a good team, you, as they say, have got a sustainable program now?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were due to, we were runner-up in 2017. We've had some other runner-ups over the years. We've been to state tournament, 5 times, I think, in the last 15 years, which is a good number. And it was exciting to finally take the next step. And I think that's going to the experience factor for the kids coming back. That's going to help us too, because now you've learned how to handle that type of situation as the year goes on. So it is exciting.
Yeah, certainly this year, given the circumstances, it would not have been able to play out. But I've always wondered and wanted to get a coach coaching at a high level like yourself and being in that championship hunt's opinion of this. In New Jersey, once the classifications have played all their tournaments, they play a tournament of champions, essentially, where then the state winners in the various classifications then play each other. Would that be something you'd be in favor of going forward?
Oh, I would have loved to have done it. You can ask our kids. I feel like we can play with anybody in the state. Briarcrest was a heck of a team. They beat Pearl Cone, IMG, Christian Brothers twice, and I know they were one of the really good teams in Memphis. That would be a lot of fun.
So, do you think there would be broad support for that, or would the public school coaches not be in favor? Where do you think the consensus on that would fall?
I don't know. That's hard to say, Keith. Personally, I would love it. I would think most coaches would probably be for it if they wanted to do it. But just probably just because you have a public and a private league, that might be the only drawback. But I would think most coaches would be for it. To be honest with you.
Jumping over now, talking about some of your players going forward, as much as you can, talk a little bit about the recruitment of some of your more high-profile players and who's maybe been in to see them, as much as you can talk about, and also talk about, from your perspective, how you try to help the players through that process.
Well, obviously, BJ's really expanded now on the interest in him after the. I want to say the Innsworth game. It was either Innsworth or Christian Brothers Georgetown offered it, and they've been watching us a lot. They saw our games in D.C. They came to the Innsworth game, I think, at Catholic, and seen us practice. And that's they also offer Tomba, so they've been around a lot as far as helping them. I always tell them, make sure you get a text, you answer it, anything that they need question-wise or whatever. Always communicate with them when it's the proper time to communicate. That's the main thing. Just work hard.
Is the key just to give them the information, because ultimately it's the decision they have to live with?
Yeah. Right now, Akeem, he's got solid offers from Rhode Island and East Tennessee State. So I think it's just a matter of deciding what to do. He's got some more visits he can take, and he'll probably take a few more visits. But he's just not sure what he wants to do yet. But he's going to end up somewhere. And looking
at that, does in Akeem's situation, does it make it a little more difficult now with the situation with schools essentially being closed down, the recruiting window being closed? Does that make it a little more difficult, or does that kind of give him a little bit of time to back off and take a look at things and reevaluate?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, right now, travel's limited. You got a lot of universities closed down, and I would think you're probably going to see some more. I think that's what he just wants to decide where he wants to go, what he wants to do, and that's not unusual for a 17, 18-year-old to be undecided.
I would be a little more nervous if he was really sure at this point.
Yeah.
This year you had a very ambitious schedule, and certainly with the roster you have coming back, do you anticipate doing that again next year?
Oh yeah, it's going to be even tougher, Keith. We're going to go Arby's. We haven't been there before. Excited about that. There's starting a new all-Catholic schools tournament right after Thanksgiving in Chattanooga at Notre Dame, and they're going to have some good teams in that. We're going to go that for 2 days. We're going to play in the Dr. Pepper Classic in Chattanooga. I know that one of our opponents is probably going to be Hamilton Heights. And then we've got a couple of other things on the burner. I'm waiting until it's finalized. We may have another trip to D.C. So it's going to be something else. We're going to play Christ School twice. That's the school that John Fulkerson went to, and they had a really good team last year. They had a couple of really big kids inside. One that committed to Harvard, a 6'11" kid. And we're looking to play Asheville, a Christian academy in North Carolina, who has a really strong program also. So we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, probably take a trip to Kentucky.
And now, is that something that as your program grows, that almost it becomes a pressure that you need to do that because you've got the type of players that need the exposure, that need to get out and play against top competition? So does that put a little pressure on you from a scheduling standpoint that you have to go find those games?
Not really pressure. It's just something we need to do. You know, our kids are really good players. We've got some, high-level D1 kids right now, and they need the competition. And we're getting. It's not as hard to get the schedule as it sounds because we're being invited to play in these classics, and usually they'll have pretty good sponsors, and you'll get hotel rooms, and it's really a lot of fun for the kids. I have to drive the bus, but that's just the way it is. But it's not really pressure. It's just we need to do it.
Well, and it's also a real compliment to what you've built and what the kids have been able to accomplish to be invited to those tournaments, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's a tribute to the kids. This group was a joy to work with. I know a lot of times you've got things you have to deal with. These kids, they just love to play. They come out. When we had the 10-day layoff before Innsworth, we divided the kids up a lot in practice to scrimmage, and which I don't like to do, but I felt like we had to do it to even it up and get after each other. And they just, it was some getting after it during that 10-day layoff. That was when I really started feeling good about what was coming.
Look, going forward now, having won the state championship and everything, any concerns about complacency, or do you have the confidence that this group just loves to play so much that you're not concerned about that?
I'll tell you something. These kids, they hate to lose. When we lost last year to Oak Ridge in the regional semifinals, a game that we felt like we should have won, but that was one of the things that motivated them all year, and we'll still use that as an experience that we won't forget. But you give me a bunch of kids that hate to lose, you're going to be hard to handle.
And how do you handle your summer program in that exactly what are high school coaches allowed to do in the summer, and how much is essentially going to be travel teams that you don't really have that much to do with?
No, a lot of them play AAU. Most of them play AAU. I've got several B-Mays kids, and they're going to play in a lot of good tournaments. Of course, if it's seeing how the virus stuff goes, but they'll play. We'll go to 2 team camps, which is what you're actually allowed in the summer. Last year we went to Lee College and played Cleveland and Bradley Central. Got some good competition there. So we'll basically probably do the same thing again this year, and then I'll leave them alone from the end of June till kind of when school starts, and then we start our weightlifting program. I've got one of my former players that's involved with D1, Devin Driscoll, that's been working out our kids weight room wise for about the last 10 years. Does a great job. I thought that was something that really helped us this year, even though we're young. Our kids got so much stronger, and we were able to play with physicality against teams like Briarcrest and Innsworth.
Does it help also that you've got, as you mentioned, you've got a group consisting of guys that really like to play? Does that help in that when you take that break from June to the start of school, they're still going to be working on their games? Oh, they're going to work at it. They're going to get shots up. They're going to play pickup. Sometimes they'll leave practice with us and go play somewhere else, and that's what it takes. How much from a personal standpoint do you take from winning a state championship?
Oh heck, it was awesome. I mean, all these years come so close a couple of times, and with two of our other state tournament appearances, we basically lost on the last shot. I think 2004 we actually played Briarcrest when they had Michael Orr the blind side, and they beat us. We lost one year to Father Ryan on the last buzzer beater. We lost a good pasture in overtime, and we've just been real close, and it was satisfying.
Do the close misses make it even sweeter when you finally win it?
Oh, you better believe it. I was sitting there when the buzzer went off. The coaching staff was laughing. I was standing there looking. I looked at the scoreboard and I thought, I was looking around, make sure nobody said anything or slapped the ball or got a tackle or something go wrong, and then all of a sudden, the celebration exploded. So it was unreal.
Well, Coach, it is certainly deserving. Congratulations on a state tournament. Enjoy the off season and get ready for 2021.
You have a good day, Keith. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Okie doke. Thank you. That is Catholic High School coach Mike Hutchins, state champion high school coach Mike Hutchins. Back after this.
Right now is the time to quickly and economically update your home. It's easy during Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center Benjamin Moore Paint Sale. It's going on right now. Benjamin Moore Premium Paint Primer in 1 is only $27.95 a gallon. That's right, only $27.95 a gallon right now. Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center, East Central Avenue in the heart of downtown La Follette. 423-562-6683. Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center, now in its 46th year.
If you are covered by Medicare and TennCare, you have the opportunity to select a Special Needs Advantage plan. These plans have zero premium, no copays for doctor or hospital visits, and the lowest cost drug copays. All 4 of our health insurance providers have these plans, but you say you already have these benefits under Medicare and TennCare, so why consider adding a Special Needs Advantage plan? Because not only will your current benefits be expanded, you will receive additional benefits. Here's what else: a larger selection of physicians, broader drug coverage, full dental coverage up to $5,000 a year, hearing aid coverage, $350 a year for eyewear, silver sneaker gym membership, and 100 trips a year you can schedule to see your physician, hospital, or pharmacy. You can sign up for these plans, and you can also change from your current plan anytime during the year. It makes sense to find out about this additional coverage to further expand your benefits. My name is Hugh Neal, and I'm an agent with Hare & Cannell. I have been helping individuals in the area for more than 5 years out of our office at the Riggs Center in La Follette. I'm in the office from 9 until 4 every Tuesday and Friday. I am licensed with the 5 major health companies that provide Advantage plans in this area. I'm also licensed with a dozen companies that provide supplement or Medigap plans. Weighing your options is critical in choosing a plan. I can help you find the plan that meets your needs. Please drop by my office in the Riggs Center here in La Follette and see me, Hugh Neal, on Tuesdays and Fridays. It is better to look before you leap.
Hi, this is Chance with Watts Tire and Auto Care.
Chance, you have a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on vehicles you repair here.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Pretty much everything we do is going to be backed by that warranty, and that warranty's good nationwide. So people really don't have to worry when they're out traveling, they're covered.
Let's talk rebates. Folks can get a rebate almost any time they walk in White's Tire.
We've always got some type of promotion going. There's always some rebates going on tires. Right now we've got up to $150 back on certain select tires.
Okay, what about somebody like me that maybe needs a little help financing something, maybe repair or tire-wise here?
We've got you covered there. We have in-house financing, no credit needed, no credit check. We can get you taken care of.
White's Tire and Auto Center, your Goodyear dealer here in La Follette.
2208 Jacksboro Pike. We're right across from the Food City Center under the big Goodyear sign.
Now back to La Follette's very own Keith Hatfield and Holding Court over WLAF.
And we are back. Final segment, hour 1 on a special Monday edition of Holding Court. What would have been our first NCAA tournament preview show of the year, but alas not to be. But to discuss the goings-on in the world of college basketball and what might have been in the NCAA tournament, we bring in Mike DeCourcy. Mike, how are you today?
I'm good, Keith. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Well, I'm doing as well as can be expected, minus the tournament. I got to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say I was doing great. Because if this was Monday after selections, I'd be tired, but I'd be floating on a wave of adrenaline that wouldn't cease until we played the final game.
Looking at how the NCAA handled the situation, Mike, I mean, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback it. Anything you think they could have done differently?
Well, I think for one, the first thing they could have done was speak to the public more so than just put out a one-paragraph statement. I thought that Mark Emmert's decision to do that and then to do a singular interview with one outlet was highly disappointing. First of all, the interview itself, the one that he gave, didn't take place until 3 days, I guess, after the fact. I didn't think that was sufficient. I thought that he should have done a conference call that evening with the nation's reporters, and it's not about me. I'm not talking about me. It doesn't matter. I'm fine whether he does it or not. I'm talking about his duty to his membership and to his public, and I didn't think that the way he handled that was sufficient. I thought at the time that postponement was preferable to cancellation, because you can always cancel. You can always say later on, yeah, this isn't happening as fast as we need it to in order for us to play a tournament. And I still think that postponement was an acceptable alternative. I don't know that we would have ever gotten to play it, but I know now we're never going to get to play it. And I don't know where this is headed. Maybe we get it all fixed in the next 15 days. Maybe there's a miracle. Who knows? I doubt it, and I think most people would doubt it. And but I think the cancellation takes away the possibility. And there was talk about how do you keep the teams together. Well, they don't have to be together. I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins aren't together. The Los Angeles Lakers aren't together. That's the whole point. You didn't have to keep them together, but you could have reassembled them at a later date, if indeed it was feasible. So I thought that postponement was an option that I don't know that they gave serious enough consideration to. And the reason I don't know is because they didn't talk to me.
How much pressure do you think CBS brought to bear trying to get the tournament played?
Oh, I don't think that. Obviously CBS and Turner would have loved to have had it. I think all the television partners would love to have had it, but I think there's also an understanding that we're in a special time and an unusual time. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful if somehow we could guarantee that everybody'd be fine if you sealed the doors and they just hooped on their own? But you can't. I mean, we had a player in an NBA game test positive that before the game was to be played, and we had another player who was on that same NBA team test positive, and then we had a player that he played against test positive. So you can't. There's no way that you can guarantee that. So I totally understand why the tournament the league tournaments were shut down and the NCAA tournament was shut down. And I don't think that the television partners in any of those cases exercised undue influence, or we would have had a different outcome.
What did you take of some coaches, Mike Krzyzewski and Bill Self most notably, coming forward and saying that they would not play if the tournament had been played on schedule?
That's not exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, Self even said that they never said what was attributed to them. I think some journalists took some license there and misinterpreted some things, made some declarations that weren't accurate, and I was a little disappointed in that. That basically what happened was those two universities said they were shutting down their athletic operations for the time being, and basically everybody is doing that. So that wasn't really what was said, and I sometimes in the rush to get to be first, the rush to be right gets set aside, and that happened there. I mean, they had the athletic director of Duke sitting right there. He's the chairman of the selection committee. They knew what was happening at Duke. It wasn't any mystery to them.
But of course, that makes for a better headline. That that essentially Duke was the first team out of the tournament.
Yeah, but that's not what happened.
Right.
And again, it was a report that came from someone who doesn't usually operate in the basketball business, and I think that the information was not presented. It did not seem, in my opinion, to be presented in the accurate fashion. Again, you're talking about the president. I mean, the athletic director of Duke was in the room. He was right there. There was no secret to relative to what Duke had chosen to do. That in regards to the NCAA hierarchy, he was right there. I mean, they could whether he was sitting directly across from them or they had to go into another room and say, "Hey, Kevin, what's up?" He still was right there.
Looking going forward, how much of a negative impact, or what impact does this have on some programs this season? Most notably to me, Dayton, that obviously was set up for a season that is certainly for a program not in the blue blood category. It's really tough to even think about replicating that season.
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably, it'll probably take many years. I mean, you're talking about, when you think about the history of the Atlantic 10, and I've been around for the entire history of the Atlantic 10. I was a high school student in Pittsburgh when the Atlantic 10, at the time, I believe it was called the Eastern Collegiate Basketball League, later the Eastern 8, then eventually the Atlantic 10. And so I've been around for the entirety of its history. And over the course of that time, there have been some extraordinary teams in that league. And you'd probably start, working backward, you'd say this team, and then you go to 2004 St. Joseph's, and then 96 UMass. And then, and so you're talking about
88 Campbell.
And that was the next step. Yes, 88 Temple, exactly. So you're talking Dayton. This Dayton team was easily one of the 5 greatest teams in the history of the Atlantic 10. So to put together another team that would rank with that, I mean, this is the league's been around for 40 years. So 5, it's like one every, at best, somebody's only going to do that once every 8 years, and maybe even stretched out a little more than that. So just for it to be is hard. And so it's the idea of them getting back to do that again, unless Obi Toppin somehow surprised everybody, and I think has already buzzed that he's going to declare, and rightfully so, he's going to be a top 10 pick. So you're not going to get that again. But that's also true of a lot of teams. I mean, Rutgers had not made the NCAA tournament since 1991, and went out on the final day of the regular season and won at Mackey Arena in a great performance, and looked like and felt like that they had secured the opportunity to make the tournament. And I was there, Keith, when I was in the tunnel when Rutgers players filed off the court in advance of their game against Michigan. And I was I usually time my entrance to get out there around then or right after they go back into the locker room to then retake the court. And I went out and I was in the tunnel, and they were coming back off the floor. And you could see that they didn't look like typical fired up, let's get ready to go. And then Jacob Young, one of their guards, sort of pounded his forearm into something. I think it was like one of the little stand-up signs you see sometimes that say no smoking or no drinks or whatever it says. And it didn't look like that didn't look normal. It didn't look like he was getting ready to go. And even at that, I didn't realize at the time what it meant. And then I got onto the floor, and then it became apparent that they had just called off the tournament. And so you could, think of all that those kids lost in that moment. And you can understand that, the fact that I didn't hear any 4-letter words was a remarkable achievement of restraint by them, because I know if it were me, I would have had lots to say.
Has the situation and the the cancellations, and essentially everything kind of being shut down, has that saved some people's jobs in the coaching profession?
maybe it has. I mean, I've seen that speculated. I didn't think this was going to be a big coaching change year anyway. Once that sort of thing comes in waves and cycles, and when you have a whole bunch in a given year, then the market is kind of exhausted. I mean, everybody who is in jobs is fairly new, and so you don't know exactly what would have happened if teams had the opportunity to play in the tournament and how well they played and all the rest of that. But I think the most important thing, Keith, is that hopefully it saved lives. I think more than anything, that's what's important. That I saw someone post somewhere that if this all goes exactly right, and it's still, it's tricky whether it does or does not, but if all this goes exactly right, then it's going to look like we overreacted.
Exactly.
And I really hope that's the case. I hope that's exactly what happens. I hope that that 2 months from now, a lot of people are saying, see, we should have never shut down. And you know what? Then you'll know that we did the exact right thing.
Since there has been some movement, thoughts on Iona reaching out and bringing Rick Pitino back to the college game?
Yeah, I think they really, that's a school that really needs something when you think about it, because, it's a very, speaking of exactly what we're talking about, the coronavirus epidemic. I mean, at New Rochelle, where Iona is located, has really had problems in that regard. They've had a lot of circumstances, a lot of cases, and that's, so I think the school needs, you're at a critical time for enrolling new students, and for students coming saying, I want to go to Iona, as opposed to, I don't know, wherever, Manhattan, and I'm not talking about players, I'm just talking about kids, and you got this going on, and I think the school felt like, with Tim Cloyce having the whatever illness he has that kept him out of coaching for this year and resigning to try to continue to recover. That they needed something, and so I understand why they went after Rick. And I will say this: look, I think Rick did a terrible job of managing his program in the final 5 to 6 years. I mean, not coaching the players; he never has done a bad job at that, but a terrible job of managing. And I think his attention was often elsewhere. I don't think that he stayed on top of the people who he hired. I would suggest that, in my opinion, he didn't do a great job of hiring the right people, and all of that came back and got him. And he said today on WFAN that he finally acknowledged that he deserved to be fired from Louisville. And that's all I ever said about him, is that absolutely 100%. You have two of these, you can't say, oh, I didn't know. I mean, yes, you may not have known, but you can't not know twice. You cannot know once, and then you're supposed to say, okay, we don't ever do anything wrong again. Ever, ever, ever. And you are on top of every single thing to make sure that nothing wrong ever happens again, because it just did. And he didn't. Whatever happened subsequent to the breaking cardinal rules scandal, whatever happened, he had to be on top of, and he was not. And so, I believe him when he says he didn't know, certainly about the first episode. I certainly 100% believe that. The second one, I'm iffy on whether he did or didn't or should. But regardless of that, that's just my opinion. Regardless of that, he says he didn't. So if you take him at his word, he finally acknowledged that in one way, shape, or form, he should have known and what his people were up to and should have stopped it. So now he doesn't get any more excuses. I mean, he's a great coach. He's going to go into a situation where he has to hire the right people. If he doesn't, or he doesn't manage them properly, then you're going to have another problem, and then what? Then Iona's gamble on him, becomes a total bust.
How interesting is the situation at Grand Canyon, given that it's kind of a test case to see a for-profit university try to really make a huge splash in college basketball?
Didn't they, though, however, I thought they were changing maybe they haven't yet, but I thought they were changing their deal. I guess they haven't, but I thought I heard that they were going to. But either way, I was a little surprised that they moved in the direction that they did. I know that they went backward this year, but Dan Marley had 4 consecutive 20-win seasons, and then and then they move them. I don't get it. I mean, in their circumstance, to have the success that they did, and then to decide that they were out. He was out. I'm really a little surprised by that. I have to acknowledge that. I don't know what their next step is, what their thought process is, but they decided that they could do better, and I wish them the best in trying to find that.
Well, and that puts a huge pressure on the next decision, doesn't it?
I think it does, and I think it puts a lot of pressure on the next coach too. At the schools that do that fire after a 1-year step back, usually struggle generally. I mean, Duquesne did that a couple of times over the years when their program was historically poor, annually poor, and then like John Carroll in the 90s got them gradually built, had a nice year, they made the NIT, then they fell back, boom, they fired them. And then what happened? Like, they wandered in the wilderness for another 10 years, and then they built it back up under
Ron Everhart.
Ron Everhart, exactly. And they built it back up, and then they had a little bit of trouble, just winning games, I mean. And then they fired him, and then they took another step back into the wilderness. And then, ultimately they got a new athletic director there, and that person, and the new AD and the president hired Keith Dambrot, and it's gone swimmingly. And I suspect now they will not make those kinds of mistakes. And so it usually isn't a good way of doing things to remove a guy after a 1-year step back. I think you have to have a demonstration that guy doesn't, that the person in place doesn't know what he's doing, or doesn't know how to win, or doesn't know, or isn't the right fit for your program, or whatever it might be. And I just don't think that, a 500 year in your league and a 4 games under 500 for the season is necessarily an indication that you got the wrong guy.
Mike, always a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully next time we talk, some normalcy is returned and we'll have some actual basketball to talk about.
I sure hope so, Keith. That'd be nice. And, my best to everybody down in Tennessee. Hope everybody's staying safe and staying well.
All right. Talk to you soon, Mike. Have a great one. That is Mike DeCourcy. Back after this.
Right now is the time to quickly and economically update your home. It's easy during Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center Benjamin Moore Paint Sale. It's going on right now. Benjamin Moore Premium Paint Primer in 1 is only $27.95 a gallon. That's right, only $27.95 a gallon right now. Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center, East Central Avenue in the heart of downtown La Follette. 423-562-6683. Lindsay's Carpet and Paint Center, now in its 46th year.
If you are covered by Medicare and TennCare, you have the opportunity to select a Special Needs Advantage plan. These plans have 0 premium, no copays for doctor or hospital visits, and the lowest cost drug copays. All 4 of our health insurance providers have these plans, but you say you already have these benefits under Medicare and TennCare, so why consider adding a Special Needs Advantage plan? Because not only will your current benefits be expanded, you will receive additional benefits. Here's what else: a larger selection of physicians, broader drug coverage, full dental coverage up to $5,000 a year, hearing aid coverage, $350 a year for eyewear, silver sneaker gym membership, and 100 trips a year you can schedule to see your physician, hospital, or pharmacy. You can sign up for these plans, and you can also change from your current plan anytime during the year. It makes sense to find out about this additional coverage to further expand your benefits. My name is Hugh Neal, and I'm an agent with Hare & Cannell. I have been helping individuals in the area for more than 5 years out of our office at the Riggs Center in La Follette. I'm in the office from 9 until 4 every Tuesday and Friday. I am licensed with the 5 major health companies that provide Advantage plans in this area. I'm also licensed with a dozen companies that provide supplement or Medigap plans. Weighing your options is critical in choosing a plan. I can help you find the plan that meets your needs. please drop by my office in the Riggs Center here in La Follette and see me, Hugh Neal, on Tuesdays and Fridays. It is better to look before you leap.
Hi, this is Chance with Watts Tire and Auto Care.
Chance, you have a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on vehicles you repair here.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Pretty much everything we do is going to be backed by that warranty, and that warranty's good nationwide. So people really don't have to worry when they're out traveling, they're covered.
Let's talk rebates. Folks can get a rebate almost any time they walk in White's Tire.
We've always got some type of promotion going. There's always some rebates going on tires. Right now we've got up to $150 back on certain select tires.
Okay, what about somebody like me that maybe needs a little help financing something, maybe repair or tire-wise here?
We've got you covered there. We have in-house financing, no credit needed, no credit check. We can get you taken care of.
White's Tire and Auto Center, your Goodyear dealer here in La Follette.
2208 Jacksboro Pike. We're right across from the Food City Center under the big Goodyear sign.
Now back to La Follette's very own Keith Hatfield and Holding Court over WLAF.
And we are back. Hour 2 on a special Monday edition of Holding Court. What we had planned to be our NCAA tournament preview, but that was not to be. But still plenty to talk about in the world of basketball. And to do that, we bring in now the head coach of the Georgia State Panthers, Rob Lanier. Coach, how are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Not exactly a normal end to the season this year.
No, not at all.
How do you handle that? How do you handle that situation with a team when something so unprecedented and unexpected happens?
Yeah, I think it's new for all of us. I think the communication you have with your team is something that's ongoing, and that's the way we've had to handle this. Is just continued open communication and making sure you stay in touch and check on one another. And there's so much uncertainty about when we can reconvene and get together, and even their academics pursuits have to take a different approach to that. Everything's sort of been set aside in light of this thing that is sort of really taken over the world in some ways and dictated and changed our lives in a lot of ways. So it's really, like you said, been unprecedented.
And is that the tough part, is that not only does your season kind of out of nowhere end, that you're not still assembled as a unit?
That's right. Like a lot of places, we're on spring break this week. So a lot of our guys have been able to travel home. There are some guys who are from the area, but ultimately, basketball, sports in general, has had to take a back seat to something bigger and more profound, and we've had to just sort of adapt to a new set of circumstances.
In a way, certainly, college basketball, at least, I think a lot of us that love the game hope there's still a teaching element to it. Does this kind of fall also under the life lessons category for the players?
I think it does. I think it's a teachable moment. And certainly, I think we all talk about keeping things in perspective. And this is certainly an opportunity where some perspective can be shared with young people, but with everyone in general. I think one of the things that happens, and I think we're all guilty of this, is that we look at things that's happening around the world or at a distance from us, and we perceive it through this lens of it's something that couldn't necessarily happen to us. And I think this is one of those situations where we have to humble ourselves and know that here's something going on that can affect all of us or someone close to us. And that we should kind of do our part in this to try to help control this thing the best that we can. And I just think it's a great opportunity for people to, see things through a different lens, and sports being less important in the grand scheme of things. And I think we're also learning at the same time the value that sports from an entertainment value has in our lives. There's a real void there that helps us get away from a lot of the things that we do have to concern ourselves with of a serious nature out in our real lives. And sometimes sports is a great way for us to connect with one another. And I think there's a lot of us that have that in common right now. We miss the NCAA tournament. We miss the NBA. We miss the entertainment of sports. And although that is what it really is, it still plays an important role in our lives. And you know, I talk to my team all the time about making the most of the opportunity that you have, and because you don't know how long you're going to have. And this is a great example of something being taken away from a lot of people who, you know, even NBA players who are the best, the professional athletes are the best. Well, they can't control this. This is bigger than them. And it's a good lesson for a lot of us to make the most of the time we have.
And you mentioned the void, and now that with things kind of on hold, exactly what do you do at this point to at least maintain some sense of normalcy, in that this would be a time normally you'd be preparing for the postseason, out finishing up recruiting or something, and now there's really not anything in those realms to do.
Yeah, there is no normalcy. And you know what? I was just telling someone the other day, like, one of the unique things for me is I got 2 teenage kids, and we've been at home together, and we've been talking more. You know, it's actually been a positive byproduct of this, is that the quality time we've been able to spend with our teenage children. And my son actually cleaned up his room the last couple of days. How about that? So, but there really is, it isn't, you know, you can try to do some of the things that you would normally do, but the reality is the world around us right now, it isn't normal. This is something new. It is unprecedented. And, you know, I think, you know, you hear talking back and forth about people overreacting, and there probably is an element of that to all of this, but it is also something very real that we have to deal with and try to work together on. So it is a great opportunity for a lot of us to recognize that there's no guarantees. So it isn't normal. The end of the school year, we don't know when we're going to get back to work academically. If we have to do everything remotely for the rest of the semester, there's just a lot of uncertainties there that we have to adapt to.
And does it make it difficult to plan or approach this situation in that there's no roadmap because it is unprecedented?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we met as a staff this morning to organize our thoughts on the message we want to communicate to our players going forward over the next couple of weeks. And it was good being around the staff a little bit today and talking through all of the dynamics of that, the timing, et cetera. But again, you know, we're all going through this for the very first time, and I've never seen anything like it. And but I think the one thing that all of us have in common is that it's something that's affecting the world. So you know, we just have to try to be diligent and mindful in all of our decisions and our efforts, and it's a unique situation, to say the least.
How much do you discuss with other coaches and colleagues and friends inside the profession to see how they're approaching the situation?
You know what? I think early on I talked to a couple of guys, but since then, you know, I think so many people are spending time with their families at a time where we generally didn't have time to spend with our families. You know, I was talking to another guy who was an ACC head coach who said he was cleaning out his garage, something that he probably hadn't done in 20 years.
And certainly not in March.
That was exactly right. No, he's coaching a team that was going to be going to the postseason. So again, it's just a unique time, and there is some silver lining in there for a lot of us because we do get to do some things that this time of year you generally wouldn't get to do, including, and most importantly, is spend some time with your loved ones, and really try to make the most of and appreciate that time because you don't have any control over the circumstances. And a lot of times as coaches, you're in a leadership position, you're a decision maker, and you like to feel that you have some control. And at this particular point, you have to relinquish that control and submit to the fact that you don't have that control and do some other things. And enjoy your family, enjoy your loved ones, and again, be diligent and be mindful, and don't take on the mindset that this is something that won't happen to you because there's too many unknowns there. So stay close to your family and just try to make decisions.
Look, jumping to on the court issues, how would you assess your first season? Obviously, coming in first year, trying to kind of establish the basis for your program. How successful would you consider the first season at Georgia State?
Well, I don't know. I didn't go into the year with any set expectations on what would be successful or otherwise. It was. I thought it was going to be a work in progress because I was learning our personnel. The team that I inherited had lost the top 4 scorers from last year's team. So I didn't know what to make of that. But what I found out early on is that we had a competitive group that worked fairly hard and tried their best to buy into what it is we were trying to do. I don't know what our upside was ultimately, but I was pleased with the process of getting to know my staff. I think I have a great staff, and if I could do it all over again, I certainly wouldn't make any changes there. And by and large, I was happy with our personnel and the way we developed. There's some things that we could have done better. There's certainly some things that I've learned myself, some decisions that I could have made that maybe or maybe not would have made us win more games or whatever. But in general, I love the direction that we're going in. I like the way we're set up moving forward. There are some things that I'd like to do to improve our roster here in the spring if that opportunity presents itself. But by and large, I feel like we've taken a good step forward, and we're moving the program in the direction that I hope to move it in.
What was your impression of the conference overall your first time through?
Yeah, the Sun Belt is a really competitive conference. With I knew there were great coaches in the league. I had no delusions about that. I was fairly in tune to that because obviously I've been in the profession for a long time, and I'm familiar with who's who in our profession. So I knew I was coming into a league with really good coaching, and I found that to be the case. And I had to get familiar with the personnel, and it's just a really talent-laden league because there's so many older guys in the league. You get a lot of guys that in our league that are really athletic and experienced. There were some really senior-laden teams in our league that we had to compete against. So I like the fact that we've got a lot of guys coming back. We'll have 4 returning starters. We had 3 transfers setting out, 2 of which have 3 years of eligibility remaining, one from Memphis, one from the University of Georgia. And then we have a transfer from the University of Cincinnati who will have 2 years to play. So we had those guys practicing with us all year. They become eligible. We lose 1 starter from this past year. So we'll be a more experienced team with some guys who we had a couple of all-conference selections who will be returning. So I like where our personnel is, even though I do think we need a little help in one area. So I think we'll stack up well, but there's some other teams that are in the same situation that we're in. Arkansas Little Rock won the league handily and they return the majority of their team, and there's 3 or 4 other teams that are in that same situation. So as competitive as the league was this year, it'll be every bit as competitive next year as well.
Final question, Coach. Is it the transfer market, that's got to be a huge portion of building a roster at the Sun Belt level, doesn't it?
It is, and I think it's a wise approach to take. You know, from our standpoint, Keith, what we'd like to do is use transfers as a way to balance out our classes. What we don't want to do is to try to set ourselves up for this one big year by having 6 seniors in one class. What we'd like to do is have experience throughout our roster so that we can, from year to year, replace guys from within, as opposed to having a revolving door, if you will. So we'd like to have balance, senior, junior, sophomore, freshman throughout our program, so that from year to year we can have a sustained level of success as opposed to a build-up to this one big year. And I've seen that happen with teams where they put all their eggs in a basket, and for whatever reason, injuries or otherwise, it doesn't materialize that way. And then when all those upperclassmen exit the door, now you're starting from scratch again. We want to avoid that sort of dynamic. We want to use the transfer rule strategically as a way to balance out our classes, to have the balance between veteran leadership and youth so that we can continue to develop players in our program. We want freshmen to come in and develop over 4 years, and we want to complement those guys with guys who have experience and can give you some immediate production. But we want to make sure we take a balanced approach to that.
Coach, certainly appreciate you taking some time out to talk with us today and everything. Stay healthy, enjoy your time with your family, and hopefully we'll get back to basketball soon enough.
All right. Thank you, Keith.
All right. That was Georgia State head coach Rob Lanier. Back after this.
Honey, which towel do you like for the bath?
Well, I don't know. I can't even think about that now. Building a home is exciting, but it can be stressful too.
Oh, I've got some good news.
What's that?
We don't have to get separate loans for construction and permanent financing.
You're kidding. No, she's not. Because Home Federal Bank offers a construction loan and permanent financing all in one. A one-time closing that can make things a lot simpler. Gee, that could save on closing costs.
I'm counting on it.
With a one-time closing, there's just one application, one approval, one closing. You can even lock in a fixed interest rate at the same time.
So, now we just need to talk about the big screen media room.
What?
Building a home will always have a few stressful moments, but now there's one less.
Rice Oil, fueling the American spirit with Marathon.
There's something out there for you and me, and the American road is calling. So what's it gonna be? Hey, it's an amazing day, traveling our own highway. No matter where it leads us, we can smile, 'cause it's meaning in the miles.
Marathon from Rice Oil, La Follette.
Hello, good folks of Campbell County. Good to talk with y'all again. This is JR at JR's Tires down here in La Follette, Tennessee, 811 Jacksboro Pike. We also have a store down in Caryville on John McGee Boulevard.
This is Jaylyn at JR's Tires. We have some four-wheel drive vehicles that you need to come check out, and we have some great deals on some low-profile cars that you need to come check out today.
Save on a 2013 Dodge Journey, 2 from which to select, a gray one and a red one, only $69.95 each. There's a black 2006 Pathfinder on the lot at JR's Tires and Used Cars, $4,500. And save on a 2006 GMC White Denali, only $49.95.
Come see me, Jaylyn Kitts at 811 Jacksboro Pike, JR's Tires of La Follette.
Here's Bailey Ball for Fazoli's.
Thanks, Jim. Jim, tell us about the 6-star lunch special. Wait, I'll start that off. Spaghetti, lasagna with meat sauce. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Bailey. Fettuccine Alfredo, side salad house or Caesar, And pizza slice, cheese or pepperoni, ravioli with marinara or meat sauce, penne with marinara or spicy tomato pepper sauce.
Choose 2 of those items for just $6.
Any breadsticks come with that, Bailey?
Oh, yeah. It comes with a small drink, unlimited breadsticks.
When is that, Bailey?
Monday through Friday to 4 p.m. You can upgrade your selections, too, just for $1 more.
How many breadsticks have you eaten at one time?
Like 10. Zoe's World Specials.
Zoli's and Fazoli's are both located on the big 4-lane highway at Dossett Road at the Marathon.
Are you buying a home or just in need of some cash, or even better, a lower rate? Let People's Bank of the South help you with a home loan. Hello, this is Matt Moses. We have 3 locations located in La Follette, Jacksboro, and Clinton. Let us assist you in determining the right mortgage solution for your family. People's Bank. People helping people. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Campbell County's very own sports talk show, Holding Court. Now, back to your host, Keith Hatfield, over WLAF.
And we are back, segment 2, hour 2, on a special Monday edition of Holding Court. What was intended to be our NCAA tournament preview show, but fate had other ideas, but still plenty to discuss in the world of basketball and other sports. And to discuss some things right now, we bring in our friend, Coach Rodney Woods. Coach, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Certainly not the normal circumstances the day after what should have been Selection Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird time. Sure is. It's amazing what all's taking place.
Talk a little bit, if you would, about the importance of the Kentucky State Tournament and the symbolic or the just general impact on the state of the Sweet 16 not being played.
Oh, it's huge in Kentucky, and the tough thing is this is how our state association functions, is off of that state tournament because of the money that's made. Because every session, it starts on Wednesday, and there's 2 games in the afternoon and 2 games in the evening, and that happens for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then on Saturday there's the semifinals, and then on Sunday afternoon's a championship game. And each one of those sessions, each session, there's probably it could be anywhere from 7 to 14 or 15,000 watching those games. And some of the semifinals have brought as many as 22,000 in before. So it's a huge impact, because that's how the state basically pays their salaries for the people that work in the state office. That's how they support all the other sports besides basketball. That's how they help with baseball and everything else. So it's a huge impact. It's amazing how many people take their vacation time for that. And there's every year you see story after story in the Lexington Herald newspaper of families or couples that have been going, for 50, 60 years to the state tournament. And so it's I didn't think I'd ever live to see the day they canceled the Sweet 16, but it's happened.
And looking at it from that perspective, is that something that kind of gets overlooked? Is people miss the competition, miss the entertainment of the tournament, but there's a really dire financial consequence to not being able to play the tournament.
Yeah, it's huge. They're already talking about the possibility that they're going to have to cut back on staff in the commissioner's office for the next school year. And so when that's amazing. People are going to probably lose their jobs because they couldn't play the state tournament, and so that's a tough thing. But it's just it's a great social event every year, and it's like it's kind of like a reunion, like you're going back. I know my wife and I, we sit in the same seats. I have been sitting there for probably 25 years or longer, and there's guys that sit behind us that live in far western Kentucky that's 4 hours from us, and this is the only time we see those guys. We've been sitting with them for 20 some years, and it's amazing how and it's almost like going back for a giant reunion every year that the state tournament's played.
Is that one of the lessons of this situation with the Sweet 16, the NCAA tournament, and all of these events being canceled? Is that one of the things that kind of the big lesson is how much sports really are kind of one of the things that binds us together as a culture?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, we only see these games. We see them from Wednesday through Sunday, and it's all sit around us and have been sitting around us for that many years. And it's almost like family, because they keep up with what your family does. You're keeping up with them during the year, texting, not all the time, but maybe once every 2 or 3 months or something. And everybody's texting, looking forward to seeing each other at the state tournament. So it's really tough, for everybody.
How tough do you think it is on the coaches that were positioned to play in the event to essentially how do you have that conversation with your team?
Oh, gee, I don't know. And one of the schools that made it this time over in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, this was their first time in like 40-some years to make it to the state tournament, and now they're not even going to get to play. And so it's really it's heartbreaking for those kids, and to not get to experience that playing in a state tournament and playing in a rough arena. I know when we went to the state tournament the first time since I've been at Wayne County, it was their first time. We went in '89, and they hadn't been since 1943. And I mean, I don't know if there were 20 people left at home in this county, when we went. I know in the championship game, there was like 22,500 or something, 22,500 people for the championship game. And so I think everybody here, there was nobody left to guard the town. It was a good time for the burglars to come in and clean out because everybody was there.
Really, is the toughest. Coaches always enjoy trying to control what they can. How tough is it for a coach to have something like this situation that is totally outside any realm of your control?
Yeah, it's just it's tough. I mean, because you fight so hard, and every kid's dream in Kentucky, because I've always said this, in Tennessee, I coached in Tennessee also, and it's great to win a state championship. There's a lot of pride and everything, but with so many classes, it just doesn't mean what it does here when there's only one state champion. And so every kid's dream here, it's not really a dream to win a state championship. It's a dream to get to it because it's so tough to get there. And because in every like in our region, we have 16 teams, and out of those 16, we're like middle of the pack as far as enrollment goes. And forever until the city school in our county closed down in 2015, but we were like the third smallest, or the 13th largest in the region. So it was so tough to get there. And so when you get to that, there's like I tell my players all the time, they'll never have a feeling like they do, an emotional feeling like winning the regional tournament. And in every county, every time we've ever won it, we've been able to do it 9 times, and every time it's like kind of like watching Hoosiers, when they're going to play and all the cars are following the bus, and coming back into our county, police escort to the gym. There's a pep rally at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night as the team comes in and everything, and it's just then it becomes like according to how fast the state turns. Some years after winning the region, it'll be played. If you win it on Saturday night, you'll play the following Wednesday or Thursday. And like this year, because the girls' tournament's first, if you would have won it on Tuesday night, and you wouldn't play until Wednesday or Thursday for like a week and a half before you would play. So it's like a 2-week party, when a team wins the region and makes the state tournament here.
Ever any discussion about perhaps going to a classification system in Kentucky?
There was a guy who was on our, I don't remember in Tennessee, but they called the guys who representatives for the state of the schools. But here we have what's called a board of control, and there's about 16 members on that, and then you have the commissioner and the assistant commissioner. And there was a guy that was on that board of control who was at a very small school in the Covington area, and he pushed it really hard one year, but it never got close to happening. And so one of the things they've done here, and this is not the state, this is just in a group of people who like basketball or whatever, they've organized what they call an All-A Classic that they play in January. They played at Eastern Kentucky University, and all the small schools are able to go and play in that. It's like a state tournament for them. And then last year they started a 2A, which is what we would be allowed to play in, but 2 years ago, we don't play in it. I don't play in it because we got one state champion, and I would never want, and I've seen too many times in the All-A where teams win, and it's kind of like they've reached what they're after, so they don't play as well after that. So I don't play in it because I want my guys after the big prize, and not trying to say we won the 2A state tournament or something, but that's not, it's a thing that's not really, it's not sanctioned, funded, or anything by our state association. It's just an independent thing. Would be almost like a giant Christmas tournament, And so it's never really classifications never really had any real strong legs behind it. And I don't think it ever will.
So essentially, Kentucky can continue to use that to differentiate themselves from Indiana, which did go to classifications.
Right, yeah. We've never had classification, and I don't see it ever happening. And again, I go back to the thing, because of the money, I don't think that would be attended like this is. And it's, you go to these games and it's always amazing. You go in there and you've got the schools that probably have 2,500 students to 3,000 in there. They're playing a school that's got 700 students, and every neutral fan in the arena is for the underdog, And so it's kind of like every year you're there, there's some team that kind of brings back the Hoosier feeling, in every tournament.
And would be the main argument, wouldn't it, for keeping the one classification? Because if you
I
have,
think so, yeah.
Because if you have multiple classifications, that kind of eliminates that story, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so, like in '89, I was talking about, we were the state runner-up. We're playing a school that's got 3,200 students, and at that time, we had about 600. We have 900 now since they closed the city school here. But we had about 600 students, and we're playing a team that's got 3,200. And except for there are a few fans up in the corner from Louisville, there's probably 19,000 pulling for us, and which made it a heck of a game. We lose by 2, but that's the thing that always attracts people to this tournament, I think.
Any thoughts on Rick Pitino returning to the college game?
I'm glad. I've always thought he's one of the best coaches that's out there. I'm glad to see him back in it. I really like Rick Barnes, but before they hired him, if somebody had told me they were going to hire Pitino, I would have been real happy. I think the guy's a fantastic coach, always have, and I know he's had a lot of issues off the court, a lot of things. I don't know the details and don't know what's true and what's not. But I know one thing: that guy can coach basketball. I know that.
How is he viewed in the state of Kentucky these days?
It's real mixed. It's probably the thing. I've got friends that just despise him now, and the thing I always come back at them with is the fact how can you not like a guy that took your program when it was in huge trouble and took it to the level that he took it? And he didn't leave Kentucky to go coach another college. He left to go to the NBA. And I guess my thinking about it, if I was a Kentucky fan, I would always feel like we were indebted somewhat to that guy for what he did there when he took that program over, and with all the problems that they had and all the probation and all that. I think he did a fantastic job there. And I guess the only thing about him that's kind of bothered me lately, it seemed like he got away from what he was good at, and that was a great pressing defense and fast break, and shooting a lot of threes. And at Louisville lately, those last few years at Louisville, he got a whole lot like kind of like the Big East used to play. I thought he really changed, and I don't know why he changed offensively, but didn't play near as fast and played a lot more zone. He played a soft press instead of an aggressive press, and but personally, I think I think he's a great coach, and I know the Kentucky fans, they, if you listen to any talk shows here, they just loathe the guy. I mean, they can't stand him. But I don't understand that, because other than they felt like he was a traitor because he went to Louisville, that he should have never taken the Louisville job. But I think that's being stupid, too, to feel that way, because he was looking to get back in college. That was a job that was open, and it was a great job, and still is a great job. So I don't understand the resentment to him, because that guy took the Kentucky job when it was a mess and left there and would have won more. I think he would have won more national championships if he hadn't left Kentucky when he went to the NBA.
How do you feel right now about the direction of the Tennessee program?
I like it. I like where we're going. I'm like every other fan. I question some things sometimes. I guess I go back. I'm a fast break guy, not meaning that you got to shoot it wild, play crazy like Alabama does. But I just think you've got to go. I think you've got to run on every possession. I don't think you have to shoot it on every one, but I think you got to run on every one. So when the opportunity's there for a deep one, that you get it, because you don't get a lot of cheap baskets. And the teams that don't get cheap ones usually struggle. And I think you've got to push it on every possession, and then if it's not there, then you run your offense. But anytime you get the opportunity to pick up an easy one, how many times have we see the shot clock get run out, where guys don't even get a shot, or they get a horrible shot. Why not push it early? And if you got a great one in early in the shot clock, go ahead and take it. If you don't work it and get a good one. But I'd like to see a little more up tempo and try to take advantage and transition a lot more than we do.
Well, and to that point, don't you almost have, given how balanced the college game has become, especially across the board, where there's not much difference in teams, it's pretty much going to be who turns over the ball and who gets cheap baskets is going to be the difference almost every night.
Exactly. The parity's unreal. The athletes are all, very similar. But I just think you can. I think you can take advantage of that. We saw a little bit of that. With Fulkerson a few times getting out ahead and beating people down the floor, and I don't think it's got to be the same guy that runs every time. I've always admired the way that North Carolina runs their break, because their big guys run so well. I think they take some horrible shots at times. I think they're a little undisciplined offensively, and it's almost like a turnover when you take a horrible shot. But I still like the way they try to get it out early and pick up one. If you're asleep a little bit or not, your guys aren't running as hard. You're loafing back defensively some. And, the hardest thing in basketball to guard the hardest thing to guard is transition offense. You know, that in between that fast break and that setup, trying to, you know, I always talk about how defensively I've never played a zone after a missed shot. I play man on every missed shot or every turnover because I want to know that we've got every guy covered. I don't want guys running back and running to a spot. I want them running back and finding people. And so that's the hardest thing. That, you know, when we're playing, the hardest thing for us to cover is when a team is in transition like that and we're not exactly sure who we've got and all that good stuff. And so I'm just surprised that more teams don't push it a little bit more and try to take advantage of that.
Well, that brings up a point that I've certainly, a Hall of Fame coach like yourself, a question I've always had, and the one team I can think of that was really good at it was Connecticut under Jim Calhoun, is why don't teams run after an opponent's made basket more often?
Oh, gee, yeah. Yeah, matter of fact, my team probably gets more easy ones after a made basket than they do after a miss. Because our goal is as soon as that ball goes in the net, we want to be to the other end and be ready to have a shot in 4 seconds or less. And so we get that thing out and go with it. If we don't have one, you don't have to take it if you don't have it. But it's amazing how many times you'll get that long pass for a layup to one of your post guys where the other team does it. Maybe they've celebrated a little too long after a made shot. Maybe the guy that scored was going to the basket hard and he ends up running underneath the goal even to where he's taking a step out of bounds. And boom, you got it in. You're going the other way. And the guy that he's guarding is already 10, 12 feet ahead of him or more. And so I'm like you. I don't get it either.
Given that things tend to trickle down from the top levels of basketball down, since the NBA has kind of become more of an up-tempo league, do you think that eventually filters back down to the college and high school levels?
I don't know. I know here in our area, one of the reasons we finished the year this year 19-13 and not one of our better teams, but we still pushed the ball down the floor harder and faster than anybody we played. And the one reason that we weren't as good is because we were so slow defensively, laterally, with quickness. We couldn't force teams to play any faster. And so, when teams play us without the shot clock, they try to take about 40, 45 seconds before they shoot one because they know how fast we're wanting to go with it the other way. And so it's I don't know. I think there's a whole lot of coaches in the world that just they feel like they got to control every possession, and they've got to run a set every single trip down the floor. And I like to trust my guys. I like to feel like that in practice every day that we're so disciplined in practice that we're not going to take bad shots in the game. And I've always felt like my theory's always been with, if my guys are having to think all the time, every trip down, then we're going to be slow. They're having to think. They're having to run a set every single time. And I like to get it out and go with it, but still try not to take bad shots.
Something that's been a question here in Tennessee for a while, and obviously the same situation in Kentucky. What do you think the chances of ever instituting a shot clock in Kentucky are?
I don't think it'll happen. And I don't think that the big thing here that everybody talks about when it's brought up is they don't want it because of the expense of adding the shot clocks, which you're probably looking at about $1,500 to wire it and put those up. And the other thing is they always say, who are you going to get to operate it? A lot of places we go. We're fortunate here. I have the same official timer that's been here for 46 years. I'm sure you remember the name Kenny Davis, who was captain of the '72 Olympic team. And Kenny's brother is our official timer. Kenny played here, and so we've got professional people at the table, and that probably happens about. If we play 15 away games, that probably happens about 2 out of 15 times. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's always one of the arguments here. Is a lot of the high school coaches in this area say we can't find two competent guys to referee the game. How in the world are we going to find someone to run the shot clock?
Right. Yeah, that's probably true also. But I would love it. I coached the Kentucky All-Star team, the Kentucky-Indiana series. The oldest. It's the oldest series of All-Star game in the nation. And there's probably some All-Star games in certain states where they just play in the state, with their own kids that might be older. But this is the oldest one where one state plays another. And we play with a shot clock. And I tell you what I found, and that was my first experience with it. I found I had to coach harder with a shot clock than I did without one. And because, you've got to work to get a good shot off. You can't just go down there and pass it around forever. You've got to get some movement going pretty quick. And I found that it was actually tougher. And I enjoyed the coaching part more with the shot clock because I was challenged more to do things than I had ever been. And so I've always been a big proponent. In fact, we have our goals. We have portable goals like they do in the college game, and our goals are wired for the shot clock. And we have even looked into, because all we would have to do would be make a request to the state and then to the national headquarters. They will allow you to play a holiday tournament or an invitational tournament with a shot clock. What they require is that you have someone records every possession so they can use the data to help determine if it's good or bad for high school. So we have looked into doing that for our tournament to have a shot clock, and all we'd have to do would be notify all the teams that are coming before they sign the contract. Hey, you do know that this is going to be played with a shot clock. And I don't know how many states have one right now. I think there's 8 or 10 that do. I know Minnesota does, and I think Minnesota even plays. They play two. A half would be 16 minutes. In high school, they play 2 14-minute halves, I believe. I think that no, that's not right. They play 2 18-minute halves. They play a little longer than we do, and so I know there's some. I'm pretty sure New York has a shot clock now, so there are some states that are doing it.
You mentioned the Kentucky-Indiana All-Star Series. How big a deal is that? How big is the rivalry between the two states?
It's not what it once was. I can remember going to some of the games, Keith, and they would play 1 year. It would be played they would play. It's a 2-game series each year, and the kids who made the team would go and practice for 2 weeks, live in a hotel, practice for 2 weeks. Then they would play a game either at Freedom Hall in Louisville or in Indianapolis at Market Square Arena at the time. I can't remember what they changed the name to, where the Pacers play. But you would play a game on a Saturday night, then you would practice another week, and you would go back and play at the other state. Now, what they've done, because of expense and everything, now we keep the kids. When I coached it, we kept the kids in a hotel in Lexington for 1 week, and we played on Friday night. We played in Indianapolis in the Pacers arena, and on Saturday night we played back in the Frankfurt Civic Center, which only seats about 6,000. And Indiana will have anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 for a game, and in Kentucky now we might have 1,500.
Certainly a change from the days when it was Allen Houston, Damon Bailey et al.
And when Darrell Griffith, I'm sure you remember him, played at Louisville. When Darrell Griffith played, they had what was called the Doctors of Dunk at Louisville. That group, I mean, that Freedom Hall would be sold out for a game like that. You go back to Indianapolis, it'd be sold out also. And one of the things that's really hurt the game is the fact that all these kids now that sign at Kentucky, Louisville, Indiana, wherever they go, very few of them play in the game because they're already at school. They enroll at the first chance they get in the summer because of workouts, and so all the guys that go to the Power 5 schools, very few of them play in the game anymore. I know one year my son played, and his team had Ray Spalding, who's in the NBA now, and Ray was out of Louisville and signed with Louisville, and Patino wouldn't let him miss the workouts, but he would let him play in the game if it worked out for him. So their game that they played in Lexington, they lost by 1 point without him, and then they go to Indianapolis the next night, and he got to play, but he hadn't practiced with them the whole week or anything, and he went and played that game. So it's really killed the game, and you're not seeing a lot of Kentucky kids sign with Kentucky anymore, and therefore Kentucky people don't want to go watch it because they want to go watch a Kentucky player. They want to watch the University of Kentucky player play. So it's the attendance, and it's really lost its luster. And we were about to lose the game completely until one of our coaches stepped up, Scott Chalk, who coaches at Dunbar High School in Lexington, and our coaches association took over the game. Forever it was run by the Lions Club out of Louisville, and it was a fundraising thing for the Lions Club to, for kids that needed classes and all that good stuff, which it was a great thing. But Indiana was about to drop us and start playing Ohio because our people just act like they didn't care if they had the game anymore. So Scott took the game over through our coaches association, and we won now. We had lost 17 times in a row. And the year I coached it, we split. The next year we split, and then last year we split. So we've been 3-3 with them in the last 3 years. So now our side's starting to pick up just a little bit again. And that was another reason people here could quit going, because we were just getting killed every game. And of course, with their population, probably, I don't know, I know it's twice Kentucky, and you got Indianapolis, Gary, Indiana, you name it, all the bigger cities, and just a lot more players to pick from. So we've always been at a disadvantage in that respect.
Coach, always a pleasure to talk with you. Stay safe up in Kentucky, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thank you.
Okay. That was Rodney Woods with us here, essentially up against it, folks. We've got some bills to pay, so we'll go ahead and hit the brakes on that a bit, and we'll be back Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. Have a good day, everybody.
Honey, which tile do you like for the bath?
I don't know. I can't even think about that now.
Building a home is exciting, but it can be stressful too.
Oh, I've got some good news.
What's that?
We don't have to get separate loans for construction and permanent financing.
You're kidding.
No, she's not. Because Home Federal Bank offers a construction loan and permanent financing all in one. A one-time closing that can make things a lot simpler.
Gee, that could save on closing costs.
I'm counting on it.
With a one-time closing, there's just one application, one approval, one closing. You can even lock in a fixed interest rate at the same time.
So, now we just need to talk about the big screen media room.
What?
Building a home will always have a few stressful moments, but now there's one less, thanks to a one-time closing from locally owned Home Federal Bank. For the location nearest you, visit homefederalbank.com. An equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Always within reach.
life could only bring again the days I took for granted when to hear your voice.
Hey, this is Bill Archin. You're listening to my radio station, WLAF, has been since in the 60s.
This is 1450 WLAF, WLAF, an FM translator, W265BQ, La Follette, Tennessee, USA. Your locally American-owned and operated radio stations, WLAF.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans.
I'm Steve Futterman. With the stock market spiraling downward yet again, the country and the world are spending another day trying to deal with the coronavirus crisis. In the UK, a new approach by the Prime Minister. Here's correspondent Vicky Barker in London.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has just announced ramped-up restrictions on mass gatherings because the infection rate here has begun to take off.
Without drastic action, cases could double every 5 or 6 days.
Everyone in the UK now being told to avoid restaurants, pubs, and other large gatherings, and medical officials are warning these measures will likely be necessary for weeks, if not months. Vicky Barker, CBS News, London.
The European Union is instituting new restrictions. Ursula von der Leyen is the Commission president.
We informed today our G7 partners that we propose to introduce a temporary restriction on non-essential travel to the European Union. We think non-essential travel should be reduced right now in order to not to spread the virus further.
Here at home, the Trump administration is acknowledging things are going to be tough. Here's White House correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
As commerce begins grinding to a halt, the president's top economic advisor doesn't sugarcoat it.
We are going to be challenged, with no question about it.
Larry Kudlow says the White House is already speaking with the airlines about their need for governmental assistance.
We're in touch about their balance sheets and their cash flows.
As for average Americans, Kudlow says the White House might support cash payments to keep households afloat. Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney proposes a one-time $1,000 stimulus check. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
The travel industry has been hit hard, and with people staying at home, travel advisors are being hurt as well.
It's really a slow-motion train wreck.
Eben Peck is talking about what it's been like for travel advisors these past few weeks who depend on clients traveling. Peck is the Executive Vice President of Advocacy for the American Society of Travel Advisors, known as ASTA.
There's a real risk that this part of the travel industry will not survive this crisis.
The industry is projecting losses of over $7.5 billion this year. More than 75% of travel advisors expect it will be 6 months to a year before travel returns to normal. ASTA is pushing the federal government to provide tax and regulatory relief to advisors. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
AMC has put the brakes on attendance at its theaters. The largest movie chain here in North America is limiting screenings to 50 people to adhere to CDC guidelines. The chain has already closed theaters in New York and L.A. Most art houses have been shuttered. This is CBS News.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Millions of Americans finance the home of their dreams with their help. They can help you, too. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage.
Don't go out to eat, go out to Eat at Chili's. Chicken or shrimp fajitas are now on 3 for $10. So hear that chicken sizzle.
Ooh, yummy.
Or that shrimp sizzle.
They sound so similar.
People laughing and having fun. Hey, Gary, maybe take it down a notch? It's a bit much.
Sorry.
Just kidding, Gary. Live your truth. Go out to Eat at Chili's for 3 for $10. That's a starter, fajita, and Coke, all for $10. Together, we Chili's. At participating restaurants only. Price may vary in Hawaii.
Clear your calendars. 21 Days of Beauty is back at Ulta Beauty with daily beauty steals of 50% off the must-haves. It doesn't get better than this. This week only, get Mega Volume with Bad Gal Bang Mascara by Benefit. Grab the Anastasia Brow Wiz Pencil. And snag cult favorite Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. Only at Ulta Beauty. With 21 days of fabulous finds, what will you discover? Hurry in. Event ends April 4th. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful.
Israel has a new parliament, but opening ceremonies were anything but normal. More from correspondent Robert Berger.
Former General Benny Gantz edged out Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and was appointed to form the next Israeli government. Gantz called on Netanyahu to join him in a government of national unity.